When the topic of conversation comes up surrounding PlayStation Now, usually people say it's absolute trash and that nobody uses the service on PlayStation 4 and PC. Which is interesting because we got data today that suggests that not only do people use PlayStation Now, but it is in fact the most popular subscription service out there. Yes, more people use it than EA Access and Xbox Game Pass. What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. Now, all this information comes from us from market research firm SuperData, who put out an article detailing the top 5 video game subscription services and how much revenue they made between July and September of this year. It was $273 million, and they broke it down in a nice little chart, which we're gonna go over. But I know people will not understand exactly how SuperData gets the info or what they actually are, so I'm gonna explain it as best I can right here. So SuperData is a market research firm or an industry intelligence firm which extrapolates data estimations. Tough sentence to say right there, right? For digital games by looking at the behavior of 160 million people. They have a panel of people that they constantly ask questions to. Did you buy this? How much did you spend? Etc., etc. They estimate for certain things, and one of the things that they estimate for are how much money people spend on digital games, so they can get an outlook of how many digital copies were sold, and then they sell that information off to investors and firms. Recently, Nielsen, who used to track the number of people who watch like TV shows and things like that, they bought SuperData Research to fill the gap in the gaming space. Now, don't confuse SuperData and their estimates with the NPD. The NPD group has been tracking video game sales, full retail and digital for a while now, and they get exact information from the game developers and publishers themselves. Those numbers are 100% fact. The thing here with SuperData is, sometimes they can be right and sometimes they can be wrong. They've been wrong in the past, but they've been right. And I just kind of wanted to make a video going over this as it was requested. So what exactly is this data, right? There's a graph I'm going to throw up on screen here so you guys can look at. You can see the 5 most popular subscription services that earned $273 million in this last quarter. And you can see there, PlayStation Now is by far the absolute biggest one, accounting for 52% of the revenue, with EA Access coming in second with 16%, Xbox Game Pass coming in at 15%, and then Origin Access Premier at 9%, and Origin Access EA at 8%. Now, interestingly enough, 3 of those services are all EAs, right? And if you add those up together, you're looking at 33%. So EA accounts for roughly 33% of that pie, with PlayStation Now accounting for the other 52%. Now, a lot of people were under the impression that Xbox Game Pass had to have been more popular than PlayStation Now because it was full game downloads and because Microsoft was launching its exclusives day one into the service, like State of Decay 2 and Sea of Thieves. Recently, Forza Horizon 4, which apparently is selling extremely well. And since PlayStation Now, for the most part, since it launched a few years ago, has been predominantly streaming, a lot of people wrongly assume that nobody uses it because it was basic streaming technology, and they don't think people actually want to stream games. Now, recently they added the ability to download games, and there's a large library of games on PlayStation Now, like over 650 compared to Xbox Game Pass's 100 games. Now, this is revenue, so this is money brought in, and right off the bat, PlayStation Now is the most expensive one. I believe a month goes for $20, although during that quarter they did have some sales. Xbox Game Pass is $10 a month. EA Access is $5 a month as well. So PlayStation Now is the most expensive, which could account for why more people actually, why it's getting more money. But more importantly than that is the simple fact that the PlayStation has a much bigger user base. I think people forget that when they think about game sales and things of that nature. PlayStation just reported that they have 86 million units sold worldwide to Xbox Ones, who knows, 30 million, 35 million, 40 million, 45 million. Nobody knows the true number of how many Xbox Ones have sold. It's a crapshoot. The best guess is it's at least 2-to-1 to PlayStation, perhaps even 2.5-to-1. I think personally it's right around 40 million, 39 million. So it has double the user base. And when you're a market research firm who has a panel of 160 million people, and you ask them questions about whether or not they bought things and how much quantity, more people are likely to own a PlayStation because there's 86 million of them comparative to an Xbox. So to me, it's really no surprise that PlayStation now has made more money and is the most popular one. It is on the most popular gaming console, and a lot of hardcore gamers usually they think that whatever they want and how they play their games are exactly how everybody else must be playing their games. You know, if you don't like streaming, then everybody else must not like streaming. I don't like PlayStation Now, so that means everybody else must not like PlayStation Now. Of course, that's not how these things go. People could be using PlayStation Now to play all the PlayStation 3 games on that service or the new games on the PlayStation 4. But a lot of hardcore gamers, they think, that their opinion and the way they game is right and everybody else should follow that. Now, the other kind of scenario and thing I'm thinking of when looking at this chart is, could PlayStation Now be at 52% because it doesn't have any competition on its own side? Now think about it. EA Access is only on Xbox, and it has a direct competitor, which is Xbox Game Pass. EA Access you can get for $5 a month, and it provides early access to EA games and a library of free games in the vault, right? Xbox Game Pass, very similar. Microsoft exclusives day one, and a whole bunch of other games, but they compete with one another, right? A lot of people really think they don't compete, but everything competes for your time and money. Maybe you have enough money for Xbox Game Pass and not EA Access, or vice versa, but they're competing on a platform with 38 million, 40 million users. PlayStation, if you recall, back when EA Access was first starting out, they declined to put EA Access on their platform. Sony said no, because they didn't want any competition for PlayStation Now. So would that 52% that PlayStation Now be smaller if EA Access was available on the PlayStation? I would say absolutely, of course. EA Access would be way higher. If it's at 16% now on just the Xbox, you could probably easily add another 16%, or at least another 10% to that if it was available to the PlayStation users. Now think, I'm saying the reason why PlayStation Now is at 52% is because it's on the console with the most users. And if you added another subscription service, EA, who has all their sports games and a lot of high-profile titles, and let those people buy into that as well, of course it's going to go up. So that might jump from EA Access's 16% up to 32%, up to 40%, which would in turn, of course, lower the share of PlayStation Now. And if that competition's there, if people on PlayStation are choosing EA Access over PlayStation Now, well then less people subscribe to PlayStation Now. It's how the competition works out. That's how these things work, folks. So I'm not surprised PlayStation Now is making more money and is potentially more popular. It's the only one on the system. It's a walled garden where they're the only store. There's no competition like there is on the Xbox One with Game Pass and EA Access. Now, the other interesting thing about this report they put out is that SuperData has found that players who pay for subscriptions spend 45% more on games. It's It's a big number. So what they say here is market research firm SuperData reported that gamers who pay for subscriptions spend about 45% more for games than non-subscribers. They go on to say, according to SuperData, subscribers also spend twice as much on in-game content when compared to non-subscribers. Cosmetics, season passes, and battle passes are the most popular in-game purchases among subscribers. So when you think about it, these people who are subscribing to these services, they're spending more money because maybe potentially they're saving money. Like if you're really interested in Forza Horizon 4 and you were going to buy that game and it's $60, but instead you opted for a month of Game Pass at $10, well, that's $50 you potentially saved, and now you could spend that elsewhere. But then again, of course, if you're also subscribed to a service, you're probably more invested, you're probably a little bit more hardcore, and you spend more money than someone who isn't a subscriber. So, I mean, these things kind of make sense logically to me. What else we got here? And we have a quote saying that the game subscription market heated up immensely in 2018 as game makers sought sources of consistent, reoccurring revenue, said Carter Rogers, principal analyst at SuperData. To increase the appeal of their own subscription offerings, publishers are offering brand new titles to paying members. That's what Xbox is doing with Game Pass. And that's exactly what EA's doing with Origin Access Premier. I think if you pay like the $100 or whatever, you get access to the full game 10 days in advance or something like that. It's going to be interesting to see where these subscription services go moving forward, how they evolve. Do they add more games? Does Sony start adding their first-party titles in there? Will Sony actually allow competition into their store and let EA Access go there? Interesting things to think about, but I wanted to make this video because a lot of you have requested that, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, if you learned something new, hit that like button, share this out on Twitter, leave a comment below about what you think about PlayStation Now and Xbox Game Pass or EA Access. If it was your first time here, hit that subscribe button. If you always want to be notified when I drop new content, make sure you hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.